Welcome everyone to the Animation Podcast, a weekly podcast about all things animation brought to you by Filmbook. My name is Matt Brunet, but some of you may know me as Animat from my YouTube channel, Electric Dragon 505, home of web series that are all about animation, including Animation Look Back and Animat's Reviews. If this is your first time here in the Animation Podcast, well, the title will explain everything for you. You see, this is a podcast in which I shall talk about animation, but specifically the latest news that happened this week. So for today's episode, we shall start things off with an interesting Hollywood Reporter article that begins talking about DreamWorks Animation, but slips in a little sequel that everybody's pretty much talking about from that article itself. Then we will look into the first international trailer of Moana, and the one little thing that people just talk about in there. Then afterwards, we will be looking into Batgirl's role in The Killing Joke. Then following that will be the live-action Pokémon movie that everybody's been waiting for, but the story about it is not exactly what anybody would ever think. And finally, we will end things off with Matt's Pick of the Week. If you want to check out more episodes of the Animation Podcast, then head on down to Filmbook, that is film-book.com, by searching the Animation Podcast. You can also email us at podcast@filmbook.com with the Animation Podcast in the subject line. So for our first story, we are going to be looking at a little article from the Hollywood Reporter talking about what's going to be going on with DreamWorks Animation and its future. Now, if you guys don't know, one of the biggest animation stories of the year is that Comcast went to go and purchase DreamWorks Animation. Now, right under their wing, under their Universal logo, they actually now own DreamWorks Animation. Well, soon they'll own DreamWorks Animation. And they also own Illumination Entertainment, the studio that brought us the Despicable Me movies, Minions, and just recently, The Secret Life of Pets. So pretty much they want to be, like Universal right now just wants to be a huge rival to Disney in the field of animated features. And it definitely is one massive step forward by purchasing DreamWorks Animation. However, going back into this article from the Hollywood Reporter, they're looking into the future of what's going to be coming up with DreamWorks Animation. And what they've been reporting, everything is all good. They're talking about, who's going to be in charge of DreamWorks Animation now, what Jeffrey Katzenberg is going to do, how is Chris Meledandri going to fit into the picture, and, they gave a bit of a summary of how DreamWorks Animation is going fine now. In fact, they announced for 2019, they're going to make Shadows, directed by Edgar Wright, and also they're going to make a fifth Shrek film. And just right afterwards, everybody, on the internet, all the readers and other news source, they looked at this and go, whoa, wait. Did you just say there's gonna be a Shrek 5? They're legit gonna make a Shrek 5? And then Hollywood Reporter is like, yeah, they are. When? Well, they confirmed it is going to be released in 2019. Holy crap! And everybody's just freaking out. And this is why you just see a giant explosion of articles coming from everywhere that DreamWorks is going to do a Shrek 5. And that is one of the biggest things that everybody got in this article. Even though it was just a slight mention, it's the one that caused the biggest reaction. And, honestly, just looking at this article, I have to say it really is was well made, written by Kim Masters. Looking into it, pretty much summing up what's going to be happening, and we don't know what's going to happen, but the future could be questionable, but it is quite interesting. But honestly, it is actually quite hilarious that the one thing that everybody just got from this is the fact that Shrek is going to make a big comeback. Now, it is actually interesting regarding the history of Shrek, because once upon a time, Shrek was the biggest name in animation, even more than Mickey Mouse. It was pretty much the biggest property in animation that is not from Disney. But then suddenly Shrek the Third happened, and even though it was a huge success at the box office, not necessarily as big as Shrek 2, however, with bad word of mouth, critics hate it, audiences got distaste from it. Overall, like, it really killed Shrek's reputation right there. Like, I remember distinctively, after 2007, nobody even wanted to talk about Shrek. It kind of became that franchise where in the future there's going to be more movies coming in, but nobody is excited for them because we know that DreamWorks is just going to make more of them to make more money. And, like, the quality is just gone. Like, all the charm that Shrek had was pretty much gone. But, surprisingly, DreamWorks did notice this and decided in 2010 that they would release their fourth Shrek film, Shrek Forever After, to be the final Shrek film. Like, the marketing was really, really heavy on telling you that this is going to be the last time Shrek is going to star in a movie. So much so that I remember even in the credits of Shrek Forever After, they were just showing highlights of all the movies. That's why, like, there would be, like, these little snippets. You would see Lord Farquaad, and then you would see Fairy Godmother, and then you would see Prince Charming, and then you would see the King and Queen, like Fiona's parents, and all that kind of stuff. Like, just to show little highlights of what's been going on with the Shrek franchise. Now, does it mean that the entirety of Shrek was pretty much dead afterwards? Not necessarily, because in the year after, they actually released Puss in Boots, which is the spin-off film to Shrek, which stars one of its characters, Puss in Boots, and it is set in the fairy tale world in the similar veins, but without any single mention of Shrek, actually. Now, I wouldn't say, like, it left a massive impact like the first two Shrek films, but I will say it definitely was good. Like, it was alright for what it is. And it actually did manage to become a success, since, afterwards, there was actually right now a Puss in Boots animated series going on, in Netflix. But now, with the big comeback of Shrek, seeing that they have officially announced that Shrek is returning, yeah, honestly, I'm showing my doubts. Like, like, the Shrek franchise, it was dead. Like, it put it, like, DreamWorks pretty much put it to rest. I don't really see the point. Why do we need a Shrek 5? Why does this franchise need to suddenly come back? In a way, you could say that it was a product of its time. Because I remember, a while back, I remember seeing there was this one review of, there was a review about Shrek Forever After, and the guy, I recall, he mentioned that, like, back in the day, everybody was excited for a movie that would star Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, and Cameron Diaz. Back in the early 2000s, they were the biggest stars. But nowadays, like, they have certainly passed their prime, and it is unfortunate to say because, like, I remember back in the good old days when, like, Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy were huge, so yeah, basically their popularity is pretty much done at this point. So, like, seeing them come back, I don't know, it just makes no sense. And, like, once you go out and try to make a fifth film in your franchise, at least in animation, that's where I feel like you've reached the point that now you're just milking it. There's no other reason why you would bring back this franchise. And the best example of it is actually recently that Blue Sky just released the fifth Ice Age film, Collision Course. And I'll tell you this right now, Collision Course is an absolute piece of crap. You could tell that they're just scraping the bottom of the barrel when it comes to thinking about ideas of what they can do with the movie. And, like, even though they've reached a low point with Continental Drift, but Collision Course, like, you could tell, like, now they've just fully ran out of ideas, and, like, they're just desperate to find something to do with the characters. I mean, if you've reached the point where Sid needs to go and get a girlfriend, then that's when you know, like, yeah, the franchise just ran out of ideas. They don't know what else to do with it. And it's entirely a piece of crap. And the worst thing is that you could tell that everybody in that, like, in the production, Like, they're tired of they're tired of making Ice Age films. You could tell, like, I've heard so many stories how Blue Sky animators are sick and tired of it. You could tell how the directors and writers, they didn't put a single freaking effort about it, and I don't blame them. It's not because, like, they're not talented. It's just because they're making a 5th Ice Age film. And the same thing can be said about Shrek 5. Like, who really demanded another Shrek movie? Why do we need another Shrek? Because at this point, like, I think, honestly, Shrek no longer belongs to DreamWorks. Shrek pretty much belongs to the internet with all the insane things that they do with it, with Shrek is love, Shrek is life. Like, you guys would know what I mean with that little meme. And soon afterwards, it's gone to the point that it's just incomprehensible. Like, they just crafted Shrek to do whatever thing they wish to do, and like try to blend him in like in the Sonic universe or in the My Little Pony universe, or like they do all these insane things with Shrek that it's down to the point that he's no longer recognizable. And often, like, even myself, like when I would watch like some weird stupid little video on YouTube, something bad is going to happen when you hear Smash Mouth going like, "Somebody once told me the world is kind of lonely. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed." It's just like Shrek has gone crazy at this point, and the fact that DreamWorks wants to make another one, make a serious, well, I don't mean serious, but seriously making another Shrek movie is like, who nowadays really demanded another Shrek film? And like the question remains, like, even though I am judging it pretty harshly that there is going to be another Shrek film, like, is there going to be a chance that this movie could actually be good? Maybe. I'm not saying that like this movie could suck. This movie is gonna suck. I'm just like, there could be a chance that Shrek 5 is going to be released, and it's going to be one of the best DreamWorks movies in a long time, and it's going to bring back the popularity of Shrek. That could be a strong possibility. It's just that right now, I don't see why they're bringing back the Shrek franchise, and I don't see, like, the high demand for it. I understand that nowadays, like, technically, DreamWorks themselves are still continuing Shrek. They're still doing small things, like, dumb little videos online, but outside of that, I don't honestly, I just gotta ask the question, like, who wants to bring back Shrek? Like, who really demanded a Shrek 5? And honestly, it's because of this that now I'm actually starting to get worried with the Comcast purchase, that I'm starting to get my first instincts when I heard like, oh no, this is gonna happen, like the worst case scenario could be a possibility. And just bringing, I don't know, like, another Shrek franchise is just like, that's almost like desperate it's pretty much desperate to revive an old franchise that nobody really asked for to be brought back to life. Like, just bring Shrek back to where it was before. But I will say this, however, not all this came out of it as bad news. Now, the one thing I am excited, though, for 2019 is actually the other animated feature that they announced, which was Shadows. Now, I know there are stories saying that, this could be the comeback of, like, a lost project. And honestly, this is one of the more well-known lost projects from DreamWorks Animation, Me and My Shadow, where, like, it would blend computer animation with like the real world and stuff like that, but the shadows would be hand-drawn animated, and unfortunately they had to let that project go. Now, I've heard reports that this project here, Shadows, might not have to do anything with Me and My Shadow, but what is exciting is that Shadows will be directed by Edgar Wright. If you don't know who Edgar Wright is, he is a phenomenal director. He went on to go and, like, the most notable thing that he did was the Cornetto trilogy. He's the guy who did Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End, among many others. He is a very clever director, down to the point that when you look at each of his movies, you can almost say that he is actually an auteur, where he really has his own style, and like he has his own comedy that really does work, and you don't see in any other you don't see it done in any other film. Very fascinating. And honestly, this actually gives me like hope and anticipation for an original DreamWorks film, because honestly, I'm not 100% sure about the other like new IPs of DreamWorks coming up. Like this year is going to be Trolls. Looking at the trailers, I don't know. It still looks like the new generation of a troll in Central Park. And then there's going to be the Boss Baby. I don't know how that's going to go. And then in 2018, there is the Larrikins, which honestly, I don't know what it is, but I've heard nothing so far, but we'll have to wait and see. But Shadows sounds like it might have promise, because I have good faith in the director. So I would have to say, out of all the DreamWorks films, with the exception of How to Train Your Dragon 3, Shadows is probably my most anticipated one. Like, it does sound like a pretty legit idea, and I can't wait to see how Edgar Wright will bring his directorial style onto animation. But with all that said and done, the one thing I don't want to avoid, like now that I got the whole Shrek 5 and Shadows out of the way, I don't want to avoid like pretty much the whole point of the Hollywood Reporter article, and that is regarding Chris Meledandri, because they actually bring up some very interesting points. Because if you guys don't know, one of the biggest goals that Comcast and Universal really wants to do is that they want to be like the biggest competitors against Disney in terms of animation. And one of the ways that they want to do it is that they want to make the head and the co-founder of Illumination Entertainment, Chris Meledandri, to be the next John Lasseter, to be that next big name that when you see when you see the credits, executive producer Chris Meledandri, you'll know that you're going to be in for something really, really special. But it does bring up something very interesting, where right now Chris himself doesn't necessarily know what he wants to do with his position for DreamWorks Animation, because right now he's putting all his focus onto Illumination Entertainment, trying to really build it into really build the studio into this giant empire with the Despicable Me films, and really cashing in now onto the massive success of The Secret Life of Pets, and looking ahead in the future, hoping that Despicable Me 3 and Sing could be as big of a success as those previous films beforehand. But for now, he is now unsure of what he wants to do, taking care of not just Illumination, but DreamWorks Animation at the same time. And, the biggest and most fascinating thing that it does mention of how Universal wants to make Chris Meledandri to be the next John Lasseter, it does bring up a very interesting point that technically, one of the biggest reasons why John Lasseter is such a prominent figure in animation, the thing is, John Lasseter is not alone. He has other people by his side, to help him create some of these amazing movies. So, and often be in charge of the creative side. It's almost in the similar veins of how, even though Don Bluth is well known, he also has Ed Catmull. It's not just Walt Disney, it's also Roy Disney. And with John Lasseter, it's not just John. He takes care of all the creative, of everything that comes out creatively of both Disney and Pixar. But in terms of the business side, he also has Ed Catmull to work a bit on to be in charge on the business side. And not just that, John Lasseter also has the famous Brain Trust, where he has his entire team that would include some of the biggest names in Pixar outside of John and Ed. There's also Andrew Stanton, there's Brad Bird, there's Lee Unkrich, there's Pete Docter. There's all those people working together to pretty much shoot out ideas and try to decide which one would be the ultimate one that would become a timeless classic. Chris Meledandri, on the other hand, from the way that he's presenting himself, he seems like a one-man band. Like, he's pretty much he's pretty much the head of everything, both on the business and creative side, onto Illumination Entertainment. And trying to bring in DreamWorks Animation onto the table, that is going to be a little bit difficult. Pretty much now he has to take over 2 animation studios, and it could be a bit much for him. Honestly, with with what they said about Jeffrey Katzenberg pretty much quitting the CEO of DreamWorks Animation, and now he's moving on to what is called DreamWorks New Media, where now he's going to be the head of anything that would come out of like the internet or web shows and all that kind of stuff, like that would be under the DreamWorks Animation label. But honestly, like at this point, maybe they shouldn't let go of Jeffrey Katzenberg. Instead, like maybe have Chris Meledandri be in charge of the creative side, and have Chris Meledandri be in charge of the creative side, and have Jeffrey Katzenberg be in charge of like the business side, you know? Because you can't just make one person alone to be in charge of like 2 massive big name animation studios. Like, you gotta have more people with you. I mean, sure, there are stuff like the board of directors, and you know there are like some a few heads here and there, but like the big representatives, like they need a brain, like, you know, DreamWorks and like Universal in general needs a brain trust for its animation studio. And like this is something that other studios tried to do. Sony tried to do it once, according to one of the leaked emails. That failed miserably, but I think Warner Animation Group actually does have their own brain trust, and that's why, like, even though they just released one movie with the Lego movie, like people are pretty much anticipating to the next films that they got, even though most of the next films that they got are actually just Lego movies, like Lego Batman, Lego Ninjago, Lego Movie 2, and all that kind of stuff. But that's besides the point. What they need, like, what pretty much Universal needs, they need more people in charge of their animation division. They can't just leave Chris Meledandri to be alone. They need someone to take care of the business aspect. They need a brain trust. Like, they need a group of talented artists and directors and stuff like that to be in charge of, the animation division. They pretty much need that throughout the whole time. And, I would love to keep an eye on to see what Chris Meledandri is going to do. Honestly, like, if he's going to be joining DreamWorks in a way, like, that would be great. But at this point, like, if they're not going to give him anyone, like, the most that I can imagine is that he's still going to, there's a good chance he's still going to stay at Illumination Entertainment because that is his baby. But, like, maybe he's going to do, like, probably have, like, a small role, like, maybe just be, like, a creative consultant at DreamWorks Animation. Other than that, like, that's pretty much my say on this, is that I'm just hoping that Chris Meledandri would not be alone if he's also going to take care of DreamWorks Animation, which technically they did say that if, the article did end off by saying that if Chris Meledandri doesn't say, like, he's not going to do anything with DreamWorks Animation, it could be a possibility that Donna Langley could be pretty much the head, saying that, let's see now, Langley will keep it moving forward until Chris decides what he wants to do, says a source familiar with the situation. To the degree he wants to do more, he will. If it's less, she'll step in. So that's basically the whole thing, is that Donna will be in charge of DreamWorks Animation while Chris will pretty much stay at Illumination Entertainment. And, honestly, for the whole situation, that could be for the best, just in case. They just, or like maybe just have Langley and Chris be in charge of both, Like, it depends. If Langley is great with the business aspect, then she could definitely help out Chris to take care of both. Like, Langley will take care of the business of Illumination and DreamWorks, while Meledandri will take care of the creative side. So, with all that said, that's pretty much my entire thoughts on what's been going on DreamWorks side, like the possible future of what's going to be going on with DreamWorks Animation, and what's going to be going on with Shrek 5 and Shadows. I don't know how Shrek 5 is going to come out, but at the very least I could say that, I'm excited for Shadows. Okay, now for our next story, we got another teaser trailer coming from Moana. But this one is actually coming out, like, this got massive attention from people, all for this one stupid little reason. And what is actually interesting is that this is a lot more of a teaser than the first one that we actually got, like, probably a month ago or something. But yeah, this is basically like much more of a teaser because it shows a lot less. We only see this one little scene. And what it is that in the international trailer of Moana, we actually see Moana, but this time as a baby. And all we see is just Moana picking up shells, and picking up shells, and she would be playing with the waves, quite literally, in fact. But it's not what you think. Like, this is more of a magical sense where the wave suddenly comes to life and the ocean, like, kind of opens up this path for Moana to pick up shells and just, just have a little fun with baby Moana, which I wouldn't be surprised if the wave itself is actually Maui. But, afterwards, that's pretty much it. The title comes up, and then we see Moana as an older teenage girl, like, looking back at the waves with the same shell that she had as a baby. And my god, when this trailer was released, it is honestly really weird how the only piece of advertisement that you would find is just, come and see Moana as a baby. Come and see Moana as a baby. Hey, look at this. Moana's a baby in the new trailer. Moana is the baby. And honestly, I don't think that's going to be playing a big part. Like, that could be just a little piece of the prologue. But, oh my god, just looking at it, like, all I see is just Disney with dollar signs. Because you know that this baby Moana is gonna sell. Like, I'm pretty sure this Christmas, one of the hot ticket items is going to be baby Moana dolls. They just can't, like, they probably would not get enough of baby Moana dolls. They could not get enough of baby Moana in this trailer. So, like, they'll probably just show baby Moana with, like, baby Moana toys and baby Moana plushies, baby Moana dolls. Oh yeah, like, that's gonna be, trust me, you just got a preview of what's gonna be the big toy for this Christmas. Just a little heads up on that. But I will say that, in terms of the trailer itself, like, in a way, like, I am a bit mixed on it. In a way, like, it's better than the American version, but at the same time, it's not as well. Like, on one hand, we don't really see as much. We don't get any new clips. Like, we don't see, you don't get the, like, just little taste of, like, bits and pieces here and there of what's going to be going on in the movie, along with a bit of the music of what's going to be coming out in the film. Like, all you get is just this one little short that's like a magical version of the Piper short from like the little animated short before Finding Dory. So in a way, like, you don't really get that much, and you don't see Maui turn into an awesome hawk. But at the same time, like, it is, like, showing baby Moana interacting with the magical waves, like, it is a bit better, and, like, it does it does touch upon people's curiosity more so than what we would get with Maui. I understand, like, the traditional dance that he's doing, but, like, I'm sure for people who don't know what that is, like, it is a bit goofy, you know? It just seems like Maui is, like, this, funny comic relief, and, like, he has this huge ego about himself, showing, like, his entire story from the tattoos. So, in a way, like, it is, like, at least in a first impression kind of sense, like, it did a bit better. So, like, it's kind of on equal grounds with this with this teaser trailer. But honestly, there really isn't a lot to say about this. So we pretty much will have to see on how Moana goes when the movie is going to be released on November 20th. This November, which honestly, I'm still excited. This is still one of my most anticipated animated films of the year. And we'll have to wait and see how it goes with Moana. Now for our next story. Oh boy, we're getting back into The Killing Joke, which was the most anticipated Batman animated film of all time. But keep in mind, I said was. Now, as you guys know, this weekend it was San Diego Comic-Con, and as you guys may know, giant news would come out of San Diego Comic-Con, especially when it comes with superheroes. And what they actually did here, considering that we are very close to the theatrical Fathom Events release date of The Killing Joke, they decided to show it at San Diego Comic-Con. However, I will say that even though, as you guys know, The Killing Joke is not a big graphic novel, it's actually just like 45 pages long. And so there shouldn't be any surprise that they're going to add some new elements. And I will say here that this will contain some spoilers for The Killing Joke. I highly recommend, if you don't want to know any spoilers regarding The Killing Joke, then, at least the animated movie, then just skip ahead a bit, because I will be talking about elements from the movie that nobody knows about. Or at least before the news came out. But anyways, with all that said, so even though this is short, they have to add some elements. And what they decided to do for this movie is that they want to give more to Batgirl, aka Barbara Gordon. For those of you who have read the Killing Joke book, you know the infamous scene of what happens when the Joker would come into her doorstep. So they decided to really make that scene, be big, to really have feeling towards that scene, to really, to make such a huge impact of what happened to Barbara Gordon there. They decided, what they pretty much decided to do is make Barbara Gordon's role a lot bigger. Show the importance of Batgirl. What does she mean for Gotham, not only to just Jim Gordon, but also what does she mean to Batman? And the way that she did it, oh boy, the way that she showed her importance. Not the best idea, I gotta say. I'm one of those people that's not really a big fan of it. So, what they wanted to do, in terms of the relationship between Batgirl and Batman, they actually made, they want to have it a bit more intimate. Now, this was just like this one thing that I stumbled across onto Twitter, and I saw that apparently you actually see Batgirl and Batman, they were actually kissing, they were actually getting a bit more romantic, and then Batman decided to grab a little bit of butt, which causes Batgirl to suddenly just get up, take off her mask, take off her entire shirt so we can see her bra, and then she goes back down, making out with Batman some more. But a lot of you are probably wondering, maybe they got a little bit intimate, but it doesn't mean that they actually did it. Oh, no. Now, on YouTube, apparently there's this video that's called Batman a Pimp. Batman the Killing Joke 2016. Now, what it is that you just see a little scene, what happened afterwards when Barbara Gordon decided to call back Batman, and she wanted to go into more adventure, try to do more crime-fighting adventures with Batman, but he said no. He just pretty much tells, he just tells Barbara Gordon to stay out of it. And Barbara got pissed. She really wanted to get back with, to really get back with more adventures, to be next to Bruce Wayne, during these times. And, she even shout out, oh, Bruce, it was just sex, for God's sake. So, yeah, there is legitimately a sex scene in Batman the Killing Joke. And what happened afterwards is surprisingly a large amount of outrage. What began as the most anticipated Batman animated film Now just like the kingdom has suddenly crumbled upon itself by pretty much by this scene alone being leaked, and a lot of people are pissed off about it. Now I understand that this is technically not the first time that Batman and Batgirl got a bit intimate. Now I've heard several times that apparently in the animated series Batman Beyond, they actually did their relationship was a lot more serious, and they actually did have sex. But even at that, a lot of people are even during that time, people were not happy when they did it back there. But there was also another moment, if I may go into my source here at comicbook.com, saying, where was it? Oh yes, and a 2014 comic continuation of that series not only confirmed that Batman and Batgirl once had a physical relationship, it revealed that Batman impregnated Batgirl while she was dating Dick Grayson. Batgirl had a miscarriage after getting punched while stopping a robbery, and Grayson ended up beating the snot out of Batman for, well, yeah. So pretty much, there have been a history of, Batman getting it on with Batgirl, but it just ends up with controversy. Not many people enjoy how Batman and Batgirl would get together and have sex. And honestly, I just find it a bit, for me personally, for someone who has read The Killing Joke, and even though I'm not the most knowledgeable in terms of the Batman universe, I will say though that, I don't know, I feel like they really are pushing it a little too far to show the importance of Batgirl in the Killing Joke. I feel like that's just taking it too far. I understand, and I was supporting the idea of having Batgirl have a more prominent role to show how when that infamous scene comes, it'll have a much larger impact. I understand the use of it, and it's a great idea in theory, but if you're gonna go out and try to if you're gonna go out down to the point of having an intimate moment with Batman, that's just taking one step a little bit too far. And now at this point, I'm just thinking about Batman. I can imagine, when he hears the news that, oh, Barbara Gordon got shot and is now paralyzed, all I can imagine is just Batman just looks so distraught thinking, now where will I get my pussy? Actually, hold on a sec. Let me go and get something right here real quick. Now, this is something on Twitter that, I just did a little post on this, on Twitter, just mentioning it, and there's actually the YouTube animator Rebecca Parham. She actually mentioned a very good point about the moment that Batman and Batgirl got a lot more intimate, and then she takes off her shirt when she's only wearing her bra and then goes back down to Batman. She actually said, just reading it here, I actually laughed when she took off her shirt. She'd be wearing a sports bra at the very, very least, not a dainty underwire. Though, come on, body armor and lots of it. Ain't no one getting into her shirt that easily. I mean, and that is honestly really that's really true. Rebecca does have a point here. If you're going to be Batgirl, if you're going to go out fighting crimes and stuff like that and you're going to be faced with robbers and villains with guns and all that kind of stuff and all that, and super muscle men, you have to at least have some body armor on you. You gotta have, you gotta be wearing freaking layers. I mean, even, when you think about, some of the Batman suits in previous Batman films, or one of the best examples, actually, is in the newest the newest incarnation of Batman with Ben Affleck. He has, massive layers with his suit. It's not just him in, skimpy, it's not in, latex. It's not like what Superman is wearing. This is legit pieces of armor, because Bruce knows that he is still human despite being Batman. With Batgirl, I mean, with the suit that she has, yeah, you gotta show the physique because it is a comic, and with the girl's body you gotta show that shape, but honestly, like, you can't just, like, it shouldn't be something that you have to immediately take it off and then suddenly, bam, just in her underwear. It just makes absolutely no sense. So, yeah, and because of this, oh my god, never have I seen such, like, honestly, I do feel bad for this movie because this was legitimately leaked just the days before that the public can actually go and see it. Because if you guys don't know, on July 25th at either 7 p.m. or 10 p.m. in selected theaters, now more than 1,000 theaters across North America, The Killing Joke is actually pretty much going to be shown to the public. And now that they got this bad piece of press going on, like, this is pretty much a nightmare. Now people are going to come in, like, with low expectations. And yeah, like, this, like, even for me, like, I thought this was gonna be, like, a huge thing, and I actually even bought into the hype, to the point that I even bought the Killing Joke comic. Like, honestly, this is a bit of a disappointment. Maybe this is still gonna be worth it. Maybe the movie will still be worth it, especially that they still got Kevin Conroy and they got Mark Hamill, coming back in their proper roles. And, maybe they're not going to screw up with the other characters, like, maybe they're not going to screw up with Commissioner Gordon, and hopefully they're not going to screw up with the Joker. Like, they're still going to keep his elements into it. But I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see when it will be released on July 25th in theaters for that night only, or if you could not have a chance to actually see it in theaters, you could still get it on Blu-ray and DVD when it will be released on August 2nd. Now for our next story, the deal is officially done. It is now official. We are now going to get a Pokemon live action movie. Yes, Legendary Pictures finally got the rights with the Pokémon Company, and now we are going to see a Pokemon movie in the future. A Pokemon live action movie, mind you. This is something that has been in talks for a long time, and everybody's been keeping an eye on. And, like, at that point, people are pretty much thinking about, like, what's going to be happening with this movie. Like, who's going to play Ash Ketchum? When is it going to be set in? Who's going to play his friends? Who will portray the comedy of Team Rocket? What's going to happen with all that? Now, the funny thing is that when they announced this, it is not exactly like what you think. Nothing like you would ever expect at all. Now, instead of having it based on the anime, instead, they're going to have it be based on a Japan exclusive game. That's right, we are going to get a movie based on Detective Pikachu. Now, if you guys don't know what Detective Pikachu is, Detective Pikachu is an exclusive 3DS game in Japan where you can only download it in Japan, and it's about this talking Pikachu that he may not be good in battles, but he is highly intelligent and he goes out solving crimes. So that's basically the plot with Detective Pikachu. And there have been, like, if you guys didn't know, there was this trend that happened once that they wanted that when Detective Pikachu comes to the US, they wanted Pikachu to be voiced by Danny DeVito. But Danny DeVito said no because, like, what the heck is a Pokemon? I don't know what a Pokemon is. I don't know what even a Pikachu is. Because, like, everybody dreamt of the day of, like, Danny DeVito would be the perfect role for Pikachu, considering his, like, that he has done similar characters in the same size, like the Lorax or, what was it? Disney's Hercules. Like, he's just gonna go out. Time to be solving some crimes. I'm a Pikachu. Pika Pika. I apologize for that terrible Danny DeVito impression, but yeah, basically what they wanted. So yeah, basically that's pretty much Legendary and the Pokemon Company's plan, is that they want to pretty much start this out with a Detective Pikachu movie. And I'm gonna be very honest, for someone who is a huge fan of Pokemon all his life, someone who has played the game since Red and Blue, and for someone who for a good period of my time have seen a lot of the animes, I kind of understand why they're going with Detective Pikachu, but at the same time, I don't. Because the thing is that Detective Pikachu is a Japan exclusive game. Like, how can you just start out with something that we don't, like, how could you just start off with a game that not many people have played, especially in countries like the US and stuff like that? You know, like, I don't know, like if you want to really make a big deal about your first ever live action Pokemon film, like, why do you want to go with Detective Pikachu? I don't know, I just like, that's honestly kind of weird, to be very honest. I feel like that's kind of the equivalent of, like, you want to make like your first ever Pokemon movie be based on the mini games of Pokemon Stadium. I don't know. It's just that it's just really a random choice. And I mean, like, why not? Like, I don't, like, on one side, I don't really see why they would not go with the anime, something that a lot of people are very familiar with. You know, with characters like Ash Ketchum, Brock, Misty, Team Rocket, and all those characters. Like, why not go and do something like the animated movies where it's Ash and the gang who have to square off against a legendary Pokemon? Like, maybe you could redo what you did in the very beginning, like with Pokemon the first movie. Kind of do, like, you know, a live-action remake of Pokemon the first movie and have Mewtwo be the villain. I don't know. It's just, like, you know, like, it doesn't have, like, I don't feel like Detective Pikachu has that much appeal than with, than, like, trying to do a movie based on the anime. But then, on the other hand, I do understand why they would not go with the anime, because if they do, keep in mind that, like, with Ash Ketchum, with Pikachu, with Brock, with Misty, and all those people, they are so iconic. They're pretty much stapled, like, as this one image. And often, like, with a popular property like Pokemon, like, they will come with huge fans that will be extremely picky with the decisions that they make. Like, they can't just pick anybody to go and play Ash or Brock or Misty. They can't just, you know, they can't just choose all willy-nilly, because, like, this is just an easy trap to really anger a lot of people. So we don't know what could possibly happen. Like, you know, it is a bit too dangerous to enter upon that territory, and we might enter into something in the similar veins of, like, you know, like when TMNT was rebooted, or worst case scenario, we could have another Ghostbusters in our hands where people are gonna go and claim that, you know, this live action Pokemon movie ruined their childhood and stuff like that. So at least going with Detective Pikachu, a Pokemon property that is not as big as the anime, at least they would be playing safe on that part. And maybe, like, with Detective Pikachu, like, it is just a crime-solving thing, and you don't see, like, much giant Pokemon battles going on, so at least, you know, it's going to be a training ground of what could possibly happen. If we're going to get more live-action Pokemon movies, at least something like Detective Pikachu could be a good start, because, I mean, let's be honest, the idea of a live-action Pokemon movie alone, that is going to sell, no matter what. At least if they play it right, or else, like, if they screw up and they make a crappy movie, then there could be a chance that it'll end up being like another Warcraft for legendary entertainment. And you know, like with this deal going on, hopefully at the point that Detective Pikachu would be released, hopefully Pokemon Go or Pokemon in general would be big, because, like, at this day and time, as you are listening to me, Pokemon right now could not be bigger than it already is. Like, it has reached new heights, especially with Pokemon Go, and coming soon we're also going to get Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon. So maybe Nintendo should go out and release another big Pokemon game, or I don't know, like, maybe do go out there and maybe by the time Detective Pikachu would be released, like, not only release a Detective Pikachu game, but also release another main Pokemon game, which I can imagine at that point could be, like, a remake of Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl. But I don't know, like, with what's going on with Detective Pikachu, I know for a fact I will be seeing it. I want to see how they pull off, I want to see how they bring Pokemon into a big budget movie. I don't know, it's really going to be fascinating to see, and we could actually be getting it soon, because Legendary is putting this movie in priority number 1, and they are going to be releasing it, well, at least the production is going to begin in 2017, so there could be a chance we will see Detective Pikachu somewhere in 2018 or 2019. And so finally, we shall end things off with Matt's Pick of the Week. And for this one, we're going to do something a little bit similar with our first story with the Hollywood Reporter talking about DreamWorks Animation and stuff like that. This one right here is another analytical piece, this time coming from Variety, written by Ramin Setooden. Setooden? I think that's how you pronounce his name. And he actually brought up something that honestly just sounds weird. Like, I don't necessarily, I don't know if I can agree with him 100%, but he has a weird theory regarding animated features and the big success that they're finding. Now, if you guys don't know, like, just to give you a bit of context, with animation nowadays, like, it couldn't be a better year to be an animated feature. New records are being broken, and now that for 5 weeks, like, at one point, for 5 weeks in a row, animation was pretty much on top of the box office. 3 weeks belonging to Finding Dory, and 2 weeks belonging to The Secret Life of Pets. And this is on top of Finding Dory pretty much breaking all new records. Like, it got the biggest opening for an animated feature. It is now the highest grossing film domestically in 2016, and now is also the highest grossing animated feature domestically, beating out Shrek 2. So with all that said and done, things are looking great for animation. In fact, some of the most memorable movies of 2016 are animated features, including Zootopia, Finding Dory, and now even The Secret Life of Pets, which actually got the biggest opening ever for an original animated feature. You know, like, things are going greatly. But why is that? Now, apparently, one of the biggest reasons, now the article in Variety is mentioning, like, he's noticing a trend of how this year alone, movies that actually feature talking animals are making such a huge success. Like, they're pretty much making such a big splash at the box office. And it's not just the ones that I'm talking about, like Zootopia and The Secret Life of Pets and Finding Dory, but there are also, like, Disney's The Jungle Book, where only Mowgli is the human character, and you also got Kung Fu Panda 3, and you also got the Angry Birds movie. So apparently, talking animals is making so much money. And if I may take a little excerpt here, it says, these cute, cuddly creatures are serving as an antidote to dark times in the world. Some executives in Hollywood are starting to wonder if audiences are growing weary of bullets and apocalyptical, or is that how you say that? Apocalyptic? Okay, yeah. Bullets and apocalyptical imagery on the big screen because of all the real-life tragedies from mass shootings and terrorism attacks. Experts say that audiences are drawn to quick-witted animals because they offer an escape. It's a concept that people understand, get, and really like, says Jeff Bach, an analyst at Exhibitioner Relations. We love these creatures. Put in a human persona and people go gaga. And with that said, like, with this article done, I will say, though, that the first time I've heard about this article is not through Variety itself, but actually through Cartoon Brew. Because, they just pretty much put in its own thinking piece of why talking animal movies are making big money at the box office. And let me just read one little excerpt of how Cartoon Brew came in, saying that two of the biggest smashes of the season so far, Disney's Finding Dory and Universal Studios' The Secret Life of Pets, are a reminder that animation is the one genre that seems to be unstoppable at the movies. Oh, and you know at that point, when the word genre comes in, Cartoon Brew goes triggered, and they go out like a bulldog going, oh yeah, like if you didn't see it, there is actually an article on Cartoon Brew actually talking about this piece where Amid just flips his lid, you know, going his usual animation is not a genre thing, and you know, trying to prove how animation is pretty much the kings of the box office. People are going into animation. This is a sign that animation should now be taken seriously. You know, doing all that crazy stuff. So yeah, that's basically where I've heard about it. And I will say, if I may put in my thoughts onto this article right over here, honestly, yeah, I don't know what's with this guy, and, let me start this off by saying this. Okay, now this whole trend this year of, movies with talking animals, I swear to God, this is just a huge coincidence, okay? Like, this is unnatural even for animated films, where suddenly we got this huge amount of movies that star talking animals like Finding Dory or Zootopia or Secret Life of Pets or Kung Fu Panda 3 and stuff like that, you know? Like, this is all one massive coincidence. It's not like all the animation studios or like all the big companies, they got together and they all had this one meeting, and then they got a head council just standing up and say, okay guys, we got an idea for animation. For 2016, we are going to fill the crap out of this with nothing but talking animal films. Alright, that's going to be the main theme. Nothing but talking animals. Now, we're not going to do all talking animals. If you have your own project, that is fine. Like, you can go and do that. Disney, I know that you're excited for that Moana thing. You can go and work on that right there. But I'm just saying that we need to really push talking animals. That's going to be the big thing. So, DreamWorks, I want you to go out there and revive Kung Fu Panda 3. Illumination, I want you to be pretty busy. I want you to prove yourself that you could do a lot more than just Despicable Me. So go out there and make 2 original animated films with nothing but talking animals. I want to see how you go and do it. Disney, I know that you have Moana, but also go out there and try to make an original piece as well. Like, don't do anything like, don't put in the Disney formula. Just go out there and make an original movie with talking animals. Pixar, I want you to go out there and bring back Finding Dory. I know, bring back Finding Nemo. I understand it's weird to make a sequel of Finding Nemo, but just go and make one. Like, so far, like, it has talking fish. It'll give us a bit of variety. Alright, so anything else? Oh, yeah, Sony! Sony, do you mind doing us a little bit of a favor? And, don't tell Sony Pictures Animation about this. Just take them out of the picture. This is just between you and me. Do you mind going out there and actually make the Angry Birds movie? A lot of the people don't really want to do it, so can you at least do it for Ravio, because they really want to push it out there, so only you can do this. Please, just don't have it be anything to do with Sony Pictures Animation. That would be great. Okay, and oh, Lionsgate, I heard you actually got, oh my god, Lionsgate, what the hell is that? Oh my god, you're not releasing it in theaters, are you? Oh god, you actually did? Oh my lord. Okay, so, yeah, that was pretty much my little acting piece of like, that little scenario. Okay, but the point that I'm just making is that there's no conspiracy behind it. It's not like suddenly we like, people want to make nothing but talking animals movies. That's just purely coincidental. I can guarantee you that. Like, in the following years, you're not going to see a giant explosion of nothing but talking animal movies. I can pretty much guarantee you that, okay? It's nothing but a pure coincidence. And the argument that Ramin had right here, saying that it's offered as an escape from all the recent tragedies that occurred, like whether it be in Munich, Dallas, Orlando, and all that kind of stuff. Like, okay, that one, I have to admit, that is a little bit of a stupid excuse. Because, okay, the explanation of having an escape, that's the whole freaking purpose of a movie, okay? That's the whole point of what a movie should do. Like, it offers an escape from reality. Like, that's what they've been doing ever since the beginning of cinema. It is because of movies that pretty much the people went through the Depression era. It is because of movies that they got they lift their spirits high and help support their troops during World War II. It is because of movies that offer us an escape and enter into a new world. That's what movies in general should do. I mean, yeah, sure. There have been some that, reflect upon some of the harsh realities, even on what happened today. But, I mean, if you fail to bring in people to see your movie as an offer of an escape, then you kind of did a bad job. And I mean, with animation, so far, at least in the summer, they're the only ones so far that's offering an escape to this. With the only exception right now is just Star Trek Beyond, since that kind of broke the streak of nothing but animated films leading the box office. But it has been nothing but animated films that pretty much everybody's been going to. And the only ones, actually thinking about it now, throughout the summer, it's actually only animated films that started out with $100 million at the box office, in one weekend. It's only The Secret Life of Pets and Finding Dory. I mean, and the reason why for that is because with the live action films, they're just making movies that nobody's been asking for. They're live action movies now are pretty much trying to this is also the case with animated films, but they're bringing back franchises that nobody's really asking to bring to actually become a franchise, and it results in a sequel that honestly nobody's been asking for it. I mean, do you see anybody really demanding a sequel to Independence Day Independence Day? Not really. Did anybody ask for a sequel to the 2014 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie? Not really. Did anybody really ask for a sequel to the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland movie? Not really. I mean, especially, did anybody really ask for a reboot of Ghostbusters that would cause mass hysteria on the internet? Well, not really, especially the last part. And yeah, I mean, these are all pretty much movies that nobody really asked for. Of course you don't see them make as much money as, the animated films or the superhero movies, because these aren't really movies that people want to see. These aren't really the ones that people ask to go see. I mean, this is why it's only Disney right now that's pretty much leading at the box office, where most of the highest grossing movies all belong to Disney, like Zootopia, The Jungle Book, Captain America Civil War, Finding Dory will soon be up there, and I'm pretty sure there is a good chance Moana and Rogue One will be up there as well. So this is why, because Disney knows what the current trend is, what the current trend is going on with theaters. They know what people want, and this is what people want. They want good quality content, and this is what the other studios are not offering. The only thing they can do that really brings in the money is their animated films. So that's kind of the thing, is that it's not really it's not because of any other excuse. It's just because it's with animation, they know what to do in this situation, and it's starting to grow a mass appeal with audiences. This is why people would much prefer Finding Dory and The Secret Life of Pets, because it seems like a movie that could be interesting to them more so than any of the other crap that they're releasing, which is just recycled garbage for the most part. I know that there's gonna be some people who will say Ghostbusters is recycled garbage. I can tell you myself that Alice Through the Looking Glass is nothing but recycled garbage. And and that's the thing. It's just that all the other people really need to bring up their game. The thing is, animation is dominating the box office. So honestly, they got to step up. It's not because of any other excuse, man. It's just, Is it like, it's not because of talking animals. It's not because of like, oh, it's a means to escape, which what a movie should do in general. It's because animate, you know, for today's audiences, animated films are starting to be more appealing than the live action films, and they bring up more original ideas, or they tap into the nostalgia better than any other, you know, than anything else that's released in Hollywood. So at least that's my explanation for it. And that will be all that I've got for this week. So thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Animation Podcast. You can find more of my work at film-book.com. Just search for Mathieu Brunet or the Animation Podcast. You can also find me on Twitter at Animat505. If you listen to the podcast on iTunes or any other podcast service, do you mind doing us a little favor and rate and review this episode? And if you have listened to this podcast on YouTube, then hit that like button and leave us a little comment on your thoughts on the news this week. Tune in next week for the latest episode of the Animation Podcast and all things animation. Thank you guys so much for listening, and until next time, see you later, dudes!